Haba. Oh. Haba. 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 Kabasho.
Hello, welcome to Afro-Centric series. Afro-Centric series brings you nothing but culture, diversity, religion, you name it all. Nothing takes you closer to Africa than its own tradition. Today, we do have Shabazz Chijoke Ijoma with us today. We will be getting an insight about how him being an African American, how he feels about African culture and all that kind of stuff. Shabazz has been a contemporary dancer for decades now, and now he is a teacher who teaches
Contemporary modern dance.
dance and yoga as well. Yes. So Shabazz, welcome to Afro-Centric series.
Glad to be here.
So Shabazz, without any hesitation, we're gonna go straight into getting to know who you are as an individual. So do you mind telling us who Shabazz Ijeoma is?
Shabazz, I'm a man. I'm a man that appreciates the fact that I do have African ancestry, and with that, just being black, understanding how important that is, just that I understand that I do have a history and I do have ancestry, and the fact that I'm blessed enough that it is from the African lineage.
That's interesting. So I guess that takes me to asking you, do you identify yourself as an African American, Afrocentric, Afro-punk, or Afro-centrism? What exactly do you identify yourself as?
Honestly, I would try to say that I try not to put myself in any boxes. I mean, I definitely believe that I appreciate the fact that I am from African descent. But as far as like black, African American, Afrocentric, Afro-punk, I would rather say that above all else, I do come from Africa. And I would rather not put myself in a box. But because I'm all of those things, and all those things come from different places. Black comes from a place, African American comes from a place, Afro American comes from a place. I identify with the fact that I do have African ancestry, and that to me I'm very proud of. So as long as African is in it, I'm down with it.
You're down with it?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to move a little bit out of my general topic, but then I'm going to ask you about contemporary dance. Why contemporary dance?
Contemporary dance, well, interestingly enough, when it comes down to dance in the West, ballet is typically what the standard is. And in the revolution of dance in Western culture, modern dance came along where people said, we don't want to dance in this, we don't want to just represent the hierarchy, we want to represent the people. And so modern dance created an opportunity for people to break away from dance being just for the kings and queens. Well, I think about that also now, being African American and being African American in the arts, I want to represent the people now. So contemporary dance represents now. Modern dance, when it was being created, was about, again, representing the people now. And so I am a contemporary dancer because I want to represent my people now.
That's lovely. So representing the people and the dance as being contemporary in a sense, does it have like specific meaning that is affiliated to the dance and each dance? Because I do know from Africa, like our dances are very specific to tribes, different tribes. So when it comes to your dance, how specific are they in contemporary act?
Well, something that I want to teach as a dance teacher is the fact that what we do as far as dance is that it is important. And that what I do get from African culture and a lot of non-Western cultures is the fact that dance has a meaning beyond just entertainment, and that dance is something that is important to the people, and the fact that we tell our stories, that we celebrate, that we mourn, and that with dance is an opportunity for us to connect with each other. So that is something that I want to, teach. And so when you ask about contemporary dance, I want to make contemporary dance special, for the dancers, and that, in everyday life, that we bring that to our work. And so be it that our dances may not specifically be about a region or a people or a ceremony, that our dance is important no matter what it is that we're doing, as long as that we are connecting with each other.
Okay, that's interesting. It kind of feels like with the contemporary dance is more of the connection and the catharsis that people feel when they're off stage as well.
But is that not the same as far as with African dance? Is that
Correct.
it is about, connecting, about the people, telling stories, and it's about the fact that we then live on through our dancing and through our stories, and through our ancestors.
Correct. Because with Africa, our dances are to tell our stories, because originally in Africa, the best way, our knowledge was based on linguistics and art. That's how we preserved our history and told our stories. So dance was one of the major things. And you being a performer, it's more beautiful to understand your point of view as in terms of connection and then relating to Africa as a whole. So that also takes me to asking you, what does Afrocentrism mean to you as a performer, as a Black American, and as an individual?
Well, Afro-Centric, that means to me the fact that there are, being Black and being from the African experiences, that we can find influence from African culture, and that my influence does not just have to be with Western's view of what is popular. And so I call upon, the fact that with, Afrocentrism is the fact that I understand the village and connecting with dance. The fact that in dance it is about communication, it is about people telling stories, it's about the evolution of people and our stories being told. So then, and my work is, what can I do to tell stories? What can I do to represent my people? What can I do to show the world that what it is that we're doing is important? And so I think in that this is our expression, and that our expression is important, and that it does not look like everyone else's. And so expressing the fact that being Black, being African, being Afro-punk, or whatever it is, that this expression is important.
And that's interesting, because in the middle of you trying to explain what Afrocentricism means to you, in my mind, as an African, when you said when Afro comes into question, is the kinky hair that everybody think about, and that's how you identify a Black person, or some people might say a Negro. However, the centrism is more of the diversity and the change. So with the dance being contemporary and having different dynamics, to me it kind of sums up. But then it comes to your name, Chijoke Ijoma. It's a very distinct name, and I have a knowledge where it comes from, but then I would want to know from your side, where from that name, and how did that name evolve?
Well, in 2014, both of my parents passed away, and so in that time of them
I'm sorry
passing
to
away,
hear that.
no, well, it's life and death. So people,
the cycle of life.
Some people are here with us one day, and sometimes they're not. And so, be it that does hurt, it is life.
Okay.
So when my parents passed away, it was an opportunity for me to, in a sense, rename myself, because it was a significant time in my life. I also retired from dancing professionally, so it was an opportunity for me to kind of, in a sense, be reborn. And so Shabazz was my original name. My parents, when my father was thinking about naming me, Shabazz was my original name. Didn't want to name me that, moving on. Chijioke was given to me by one of my first African dance teachers, and Nomi is one of the most awesome ladies here in Nashville, but it just means that God gives talent. And so I kept that name. And then Ujima, which is the Kwanzaa principle for collective responsibility. My birthday is December 28th, which is also the day of Ujima. And I think that, part of my purpose in life really is about understanding the community and the village, and that through the community and the village that we really can go further And that again is something that I believe is distinctly African, and the
Yeah.
fact that we really do, believe in the village mentality as opposed to just the individual. And so I adopted that name, just as a renaming of myself. 'Cause I think that is something that is important. And again, in African cultures, that names have power.
Correct.
And that is something that I believe is important, is that my name carries some sort of weight behind it and that I live up to that name.
Correct. I'm so impressed. Like, no, nothing. I'm so impressed because I haven't actually had a conversation with an American before that they've actually expressed and given me like an in-depth as to the names and the significance of the names. Because being an African and born in Africa, I know the significance of every name and the date and day that the person is being born actually reflects. It's one of the means and one of the keywords how to name a child, and it has like a major significance on a child, and all our names have meanings as well. And for the longest, my name is George, and that's what like my first name is. My middle name is Maudeka, which means God is one. And for the longest, everybody has God. In Africa, they called you by your first or your last name, because we believe in classism and pedigrees and stuff like that. So they would just call you by your full name, George Atipo. George. So when they call you by that, they know which family you belong to, which clan you belong to, your family status, the wealth of your family, and all of that. So, and my middle name was never a thing for me to use. I felt like it was more interpersonal with me. So if it's either my mom who is calling me by my middle name or my brothers. So for the longest, I never used my middle name. And I lost my dad as well when I was 7. And it wasn't a good experience when I was little, and it still have an effect on me till now. So I decided not to use either my middle name or my last name. So if you do ask me my name, I'll tell you my name is George. It took me a very long time when I moved to the United States. One of my lectures, we were supposed to write an essay on an inciting incident. And then I wrote an essay that was named The Double Death. And that was my dad. My dad actually died when I was 9, but to me he died when I was 7. So my professor thought I needed to see a therapist yeah, because of the content of the essay. So initially I was like, no, I'm black. Black folks, we don't need therapy and stuff like that. No, that shit, that is not going to work. Yeah,
get that shit. Sorry.
Coming from me. So I thought about it and I opted in. And then I started to deal with my inner demons to actually know who I am as an individual. So after I went through that phase, I started using my name, Maudeka, which means God is one. But my mom or my family call me Deka. They shorten because most people cannot go with the Maudeka, so it goes like, oh, Deka or Mau. So they tell either one or God. That's it. So either way, it's inspired by me. But when I grew up, I was like, okay, now I need to find myself and I need to find my identity. I started using the Deka more because I believe in individualism, and Deka means one. So I stand for myself, by myself, and for me. So I use the Deka more. So with that said, back to you, do you identify yourself with like a specific culture or clan within Africa? Have you gone in depth as to where your name is from?
As far as the name that I've given myself, I know that I believe that it's Ghanaian. I believe in its origin, but I haven't done the research, and it was given to me. But as far as like my actual ancestry, I am not aware of what that is, which is, a beautiful, I guess, challenge to go through, is to find that, but understanding too that, being black, that means that I have lots of I guess, of parts that have been who made me who I am. And so, yes, I would love to know exactly what country I come from, just as far as just understanding, just that ancestry and that culture.
So with the name that you have, specifically it's from Nigeria, the Chijioke Ijoma. That's how it's being pronounced.
Okay.
So it's a beautiful name. Nigeria is in West Africa, which is closer to Ghana. It's like 4 hours drive. No, not 4 hours. By air, it's like 45 minutes. A drive, I'm not too sure, will probably be 11 hours. But yeah, and they share the same cultures. Like they have a lot in common with food, but they have the Igbo, different states. The lighter people, I'm not too sure. I don't want to give you like false information pertaining to that. But then I will have a Nigerian on the show next, and then I will have you here with her as well, and she will give you more insight as to their cultures as well.
But no, that's something that too that's just important is being able to have those conversations, so that more Black people are understanding just about African cultures, and just the fact that it is a part of where we come from, and that for me it has always been something that I always I don't know, I think it was blood memory. Like, it wasn't necessarily taught to me, but it was something that I was curious in, just from being young and hearing about the African Street Festival and being like, you know what, I want to go. And it was like on Jefferson Street behind TSU. I was
with
like,
the exhibitions and all that.
Yeah, I was like, man, what is this all about? But it was something that was, interesting to me, just being, Black. I think that there was, I'm thankful that I had that curiosity and that I still continue to have it.
And I really did actually like the fact that you mentioned that as Black people should be aware. It takes me to my next question, which is, do you think Americans, like Black Americans, actually are ignorant or insensitive to Africans, their culture? And because within Africa, when Africans migrate here, or when they come here, like the real Africans, we refer to ourselves as African Americans, and we refer to Black folks as Black Americans with no
connection to Africa.
Correct. So, and actually, it's actually based on series of experiences. So you being an American, growing up in Nashville, Tennessee, which is America, and having all the cultures and being around Black folks, do you think they're ignorant or they're insensitive towards Africans that move here?
I think part of it is the fact that as being Black, Africa really isn't promoted for what it is and for how has its significance to the world and its beauty. And so then with that being, kind of what, Black people are introduced to, then, we look at what we see as far as what the West, says Africa is. And so then people don't want to connect with that, but that just is an unfortunate situation just because we aren't, oftentimes taught to seek, and when it comes down to not having a lineage, from slavery being taught, like, no, there is no connection to Africa, but then understanding that there is a beauty in Africa. I think that a lot of unfortunate, and this is just my perspective on this, is that we don't look at Africa as a place to want to go to, because it's not in the West. It's not taught as a place to want to go to. Actually, a lot of how we live is very anti-African.
Correct.
When we think about village, when we think about being more in tune with just the greaterness of it all, that's not really what our society teaches us.
Correct.
So I think for me, like I said, I just had a natural curiosity for the fact that there is a beauty in Blackness, and with that beauty in Blackness, that comes from Africa.
Correct. And nothing against you, because with you, it looks like you've researched into Africa, you've embraced the culture and everything. Well, not enough, but then as an African, I will say for myself that I think Black Americans use us as a trend setting advantage, because of there's Wakanda, the movie by Marvel. I think what's the name of the movie again?
Black Panther.
Black Panther. And now, because Africa was portrayed in it, everybody has embraced that, and they're wearing the dashiki here and there. And being an Africans, we're very sensitive to our culture, so if it's being portrayed wrongly, then we find it very offensive. So we feel like because the movie was doing great, people are using us as a trend.
Well, I think that prior to Black Panther, there had been a resurgence in pro-Blackness. Prior to that, I think people were already on board with the fact that there was a beauty in Blackness because of, the current political situation that we're in. I think we start to understand that we have to begin to unite because there was a common enemy.
Correct.
And so then I think Black people are already beginning to understand the beauty of who we are.
Correct.
You know, with shows like Blackish and Get Out. Like there were a lot more movies and things and pop culture that was saying like black people, like y'all are beautiful. And so then with a movie like Black Panther coming through, I think it then creates an opportunity for black people to understand that there is a beauty in blackness.
Correct.
Because, you know, yes, we're looking at it, and yes, Wakanda and all those things are fictional places, but it really goes again to the fact that there is a beauty in blackness.
Correct.
And so then hopefully then we then can begin to have more conversations with black people and Africans, and not just Africans, but people from the whole entire African diaspora.
Correct. So I do not wish to dive into that because we're going to be having a panel discussion on the next episode, and that we're actually going to have you back on the show with other Americans and Africans, and it's going to be a battle.
Why is that going to be a battle? Why can't it be a battle? Why can't we just love? Why can't we sit up there and listen to each other and sit up there and just because that's the issue, we ain't got a battle, we got to just listen.
But we cannot fix what is not broken. We need to break it to fix it. So
it's already broken. The shit ain't fixed. So
but is it out there? Are we talking about
it? That's what we're going to do. But while we talking, we're going to listen. You know, I think that's the thing. Like right now, we got to get to a point where we are listening to each other.
Correct.
And when we listen, then we can understand different perspectives because all I can know is what I've been exposed to.
Correct.
And so then in this conversation, I'm being exposed, and then hopefully everyone is coming in with just listening ears and hearts. Because at the end of the day, we are a people.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, just as a black man, it is my desire to understand where I come from, but I also have to understand that there is an evolution to that. Yeah. So, you know, I'm coming in with listening ears and then listening heart.
I know.
You know, I ain't got time to fight. We done did enough of that.
And with that said, I would say thank you so much for coming on the show. Is there any last words that you would want to say to our viewers out there?
No, black people, African people, let's just get together. You know, let's get back together.
Togetherness. Togetherness and connection is all that matters. So once again, my name is Deka Atipo and Shabazz Ujoma. And thank you so much for watching. If you have not yet subscribed to this show, click on the button down there that says subscribe, like, share, comment, do whatever. And if you have any topic that you want us to talk about, you can also put that right there and we will talk about it. And stay tuned for the next episode. What was I going to say again? Afro-Centric series. Nothing takes you closer to Africa than its own tradition. Mwah, kisses.
Haba. Oh. Haba. Kabasho. Kabasho. Kabasho.